Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about leadership. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, is the servant leadership style one of the most effective leadership styles that a software engineering leader can adopt? I don't think so, because I ultimately think that it's a phony it's a phony way of structuring a leadership, because the problem with the perspective, I believe, is that there is a servitude mindset in anyone who is part of a hierarchy, and whereas the top node in the hierarchy has that is supposed to be a servitude towards the bottom layers, is inherent to the structure. But the problem that I see with it is that people interpret it in a way where they're supposed to cater to the needs of the people underneath in a, I'm not saying subservient way, but you're basically trying to take your manager and make your manager serve you as the individual. And the problem with that is that the role of a leader is absolutely one part to serve the people, or serve the people that you're working with, but not at the expense of the health of the mission, if that makes sense. Because what happens if you do only that part is that, at least from my perspective, you become a manager. And you see, a manager is a more convenient sort of beast to be, because a manager doesn't have to achieve anything. As a leader, you actually have to have an idea of where you're heading. You have to have a vision of some sort, moving in some direction. Management doesn't necessarily mean that. Management means that you need to maintain. Management means that you have to make people productive, happy, ambitious, but someone else is ultimately responsible for direction, vision, execution, all of these sorts of things. And the problem when you have a servant type of mentality in your leadership structure is that it gives you, at least I've always seen this happen, it gives you an excuse to not have a vision. And this is where it gets tricky, I think, because I've always said that my personal belief system is very simple. I believe that the conqueror mentality is the only real leadership structure that works within business. And what I mean by that is not that you mistreat people. That's not what I'm. That's where I think it's such a bad idea that, you have this idea in some societies where a person who has a vision and a drive to get something done has to be mean, pushy, or something like that, or like a dictator mindset or something like that. That is not so. I believe that the idea that you have to cater to people so that your people will do a good job is incorrect, because the only thing that is true, as far as we look at history, is that strong leadership is not based on that the people is being coddled or pampered by the leader. It is that the leader is a strong leader, a person with a vision and a drive to execute on some greater goal, and the people will follow that leadership. That is the sort of mentality that it's almost inherent to our species, I would say. It is inherent to the animal kingdom. Now, the problem, as I said, is that when you have the wrong sort of leadership in that sort of structure, it inevitably ends with a dictator, or you have people who can't handle the power. Everybody says the power corrupts, etc., etc. But the reality is that no meaningful progress can actually happen if you have a leader who will not actually lead. And I've seen this time and time again, guys, and it is the number one killer of all IT companies, because what you get to fundamentally is a position where all the leaders, all the middle management, etc., no one is actually willing to do anything. They're not willing to make things happen, because making things happen means that you have to stick your neck out and risk something. And risk that somebody might not like you, or may risk that someone's going to go, no, actually, why are you doing this? And then complain about it to someone else, and then you get fired because they're complaining to someone who doesn't like you either. That is a recipe for stagnation, which is the thing that happens in most major IT companies. If you haven't noticed it, the majority of innovation within our industry, and I would say in most cases, is happening not by all companies, it is happening by a few select companies. And the norm is, as I said, that apathy and weak or very flaky, like ass-covering type of leaders, they will kill your organization because they have no vision and they have no drive to execute on anything. I've been in so many companies, guys, where the leadership is literally up to tribalism, where the company literally is allowing each and every team to sort of do whatever they want, and then that's gonna somehow, then you're basically betting on that you will find someone who actually has a vision to exist within your ecosystem, and then you're betting, which is so weird, you're betting that person who has no power or authority, like a driven sort of motivated software developer, you have no central leadership or anyone who can raise that person's ideas up and actually execute across the company. You are betting on that they will somehow convince everybody else to ignore whatever they are doing and help them achieve their goal. Which is, as I said, it is a symptom of weak leadership. I argue that the strongest leaders and most efficient leaders that we have ever had are people who have actually taken up the responsibility of executing on a vision. But the problem is, as I said, if you are going to do that, you actually have to have a vision. And servant leadership, as a pure servant type of leadership style, is more convenient to you. Because, as I like to say, if you are a manager, or like if you have that mindset, or if you're, in some cases, you're going to do the politics thing, the only thing you have to do is to make everybody like you. And you know how you get everybody to like you? Never force them to do anything. Never have an opinion on anything, really. Just make sure that everybody you are smiling to everybody. Make sure that everybody sort of feels like you're listening to them, etc., etc. That is the most simplest and most surefire way you can stay in any position, because now you're never actually taking charge of anything. And that sort of, as I said, that sort of leadership basically means that you are too incompetent, scared, ass covering, whatever, to actually make any type of attempt to move things. So you're hoping that someone below you, like one of your engineers, is going to do it for you, and then you can raise them up so that they go and try to do that thing, which is, as I said, it's the move of either a coward or someone who doesn't actually have any ideas of their own. So what I want you to take away from this is that I believe that a servant type of leadership, depending on how you want to define it, is a recipe for stagnation and incompetence, and stagnation and breeding of incompetency within the leadership hierarchy in most companies. It is the number one style in management today, where most managers are basically not able to execute on anything. Like the company structures, especially in the larger organization, can barely get anything done. You get half-assed solutions, half measures, token things, a lot of talking, a lot of meetings, a lot of planning, no execution, because no one is actually able to execute. Not because there are no way, it's not because these problems can't be solved, it's just that nobody's going to take charge for it. Nobody can take charge for it. Nobody's going to lead the charge, which is how true leadership works. That is why, as historically, all leaps forward in terms of, if we're talking war or politics or whatever, has always been structured the same way. Unfortunately, having the classic type of style where you have a conqueror type of leadership, if you will, it tends to end with a dictator. or some power-hungry crazy person, and so forth and so forth. But there are also examples of when this has worked out extremely well. I would say that depending on, you can feel how you want about, say, Steve Jobs, or like these, the billionaires of the world and so forth, or Elon Musk, etc., etc. But one thing that I would like to credit the moguls of our society with is that they have executed on a vision of some sort. They have made things happen, and as I said, that is what is necessary for efficient innovation to actually take place. If you're only covering your ass and only trying to find other people who can, as I said, the servant's mindset, to support so that they will do it for you, it's probably an indicator, as I said, that you are either not able to come up with any ideas yourself, or more likely you're actually covering your ass. Well, I wouldn't say more likely, but it is an equal measure. So I believe that the ideal leadership style is that you have to lead by example. Be a good example to the people that you are working with, or the people that you are leading. Show them that you have the skills and you have a vision that you want to execute in, and include them. Because if they feel like you know what you're doing and you're heading in a direction and you're willing to take responsibility for all the mistakes that you might make and so forth, they will follow. And then, when they have their own ideas, you listen to them, you hear them, you take care of them, just as I like to say, a sergeant of a well-functioning platoon. That is exactly the sort of leadership that I believe makes the difference in practically every situation that you find a group of humans working as a team. Have a great day.